The Great Galactic War had ended only 6 months ago. The stars were quiet again, but not at peace. Many planets were still recovering. Whole civilizations had lost homes, families, and hope. Now, leaders were looking for a way to stop future wars before they began. That was when the Thalrene Empire, rulers of over 50 star systems, came forward with an idea. They would form an official peace bond with the humans of Earth, but not with just words, with marriage. The Empire's High Council decided the bond should be sealed by a royal wedding between the Empire's own princess and a human. Princess HFY Thalrex, daughter of the Empress, was chosen. She was young, beautiful, and proud. She had trained in diplomacy and war since she was a child. Her skin shimmered like crystal, and her voice carried weight in every room. When she heard the council's plan, she was silent for a moment. Then her sharp, silvery eyes narrowed. "A human?" she asked, her voice calm but cold. "You wish me to marry a creature from a planet barely holding itself together after one war?" The council reminded her. Humans had proven themselves in battle. Brave, clever, especially one man, Commander Elias Drake. He had led a rescue mission that saved thousands of Thalrene during the war. He was respected by his people and had even earned the Empire's honor crest. Ovia knew who he was. She had read the reports. But in her heart, she still saw humans as wild and unrefined. Their cities were loud, their emotions too raw, and their history full of fighting. To her, they were not like the polished, graceful Thalrene. They were dirty. Still, duty to her people came first. She gave a stiff nod. "Very well. If this is the price of peace, I will pay it." Elias Drake didn't feel proud when he heard the news. He felt confused. He was a soldier, not a royal. He had seen war up close, on burning moons and in broken starships. He had made hard choices, lost good friends. The last thing he wanted was to wear golden robes and pretend to be a prince. But the call had come directly from Earth's council. This marriage could mean long-lasting peace, a better future for both species. He couldn't say no. "I've never even met her," Elias told his friend Captain Rana. "And from what I hear, she thinks we're savages." Captain Rana chuckled. "Well, she might not be wrong. You haven't cleaned your boots in 3 weeks. Elias rolled his eyes but smiled. Still, deep down, he wondered, how do you build a life with someone who doesn't even think you're worth touching? The wedding was planned quickly. It was held on the neutral moon city of Sevalon. Famous for its beauty and safety, the city floated in orbit, a silver ring around a gas giant. Alien guests from across the galaxy came to watch the event. For many, it was the first time seeing a human and a Thalrene stand side by side. Princess Ovia wore a gown made of starlight thread, glowing softly with every movement. Her crown sparkled like 1,000 suns. She walked with perfect grace, but her face was still, almost frozen. Her golden eyes glanced at Elias only once. Elias stood tall in his formal uniform, clean-shaven, and quiet. He didn't try to take her hand or smile too much. He could feel the cold space between them, and he respected it. The ceremony was beautiful, but the air between bride and groom stayed cold. When the official words were spoken, and they were pronounced bound under treaty and law, Ovia gave a shallow bow. Elias nodded back. No kiss, no touch. Later, as they stood on a balcony before the crowd, she leaned toward him and whispered, "Do not think this makes us close." Elias answered calmly, "I don't. But I hope someday we might talk." Ovia didn't respond. She simply turned away and walked back inside the palace, her steps like ice. That night, in their private quarters, Ovia requested separate rooms. Elias agreed without complaint. He spent the evening reading an old book, something about Earth's mountains and rivers. Far away from this polished city and royal pressure, he missed the quiet of nature. Ovia, in her own chamber, looked at her reflection. She had done what was needed for her people. But as she removed her crown and touched her cheek, she felt something strange, A single, quiet thought. He did not try to own me. He did not force my hand. She pushed the thought away. Humans were still crude, still loud, still dirty. And yet, the human had been gentle. She shook her head and turned off the lights. The golden light of Sevalon's twin moons filled the great palace halls. After the royal wedding, the celebration continued through the night. Music from several alien worlds echoed through crystal towers. Guests danced, laughed, and toasted to peace. But inside the private chambers of the newlywed couple, the mood was quiet. Too quiet. Princess Avia sat on a silver bench near the window, staring out at the stars. Her gown had been replaced with a soft white robe made from thalrine silk. Even now she sat tall, her back straight and her expression calm. But her thoughts were far from peaceful. She still could not believe she had married a human. Her people were elegant, pure, and disciplined. They trained for balance in mind and body. Humans, in her view, were loud, emotional, and rough in both word and touch. She had seen the way they fought in war. Brave, yes, but reckless. And now, one of them shared her name. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I did this for my people, not for him, not for Earth." In the room next to hers, Elias Drake removed his formal jacket and sat on the edge of the bed. The room was quiet, filled with strange glowing plants and floating lights, a thalrine design. He looked around and chuckled softly. "Feels more like a museum than a bedroom." Wasn't angry about the separate rooms. Honestly, he was relieved. He didn't know the princess, and she clearly didn't want to know him. But he couldn't help wondering, what was it about humans that bothered her so much? Had she never met one in person before the wedding? He reached into his bag and pulled out a small holocube. It lit up, showing a picture of a lake on Earth surrounded by tall green trees. A place he used to visit as a child. "I miss the quiet," he said softly. The next morning, breakfast was served in the joint dining room. Avia arrived first, already dressed in royal blue robes. She was never late. She sat at the head of the table, scanning a screen with political reports. Elias walked in a few minutes later wearing a simple gray uniform. He gave a small nod. "Good morning." Avia did not look up. "The weather on Sevalon is stable. We will attend 2 meetings today, one with the Trade Council, one with the Cultural Board." Elias sat quietly and picked up a piece of fruit from the tray. "No day off for the newlyweds?" he asked, trying to smile. She still didn't look at him. "We are not newlyweds, we are symbols, let's not forget that." Elias said nothing more. He just nodded again and began eating. Later that day, during the Cultural Board meeting, Elias listened to thalrine officials speak about the importance of shared values and traditions. They spoke of poetry, dance, and music. When asked to speak, Elias stood up. "I think humans have a lot to learn from thalrine culture," he said honestly. "But maybe we can also share some of our own stories. Simple things, like how we celebrate with food or how we teach children kindness." Some in the room smiled politely. Others remained silent. Ovia, standing beside him, said nothing, but her eyes moved toward him for a moment, brief, curious. After the meeting, as they walked back toward the palace, she finally spoke. "You speak carefully, but not like a leader." Elias looked at her. "Maybe that's because I'm not trying to lead anyone, I'm just trying to understand." That answer surprised her. Most diplomats wanted power, control, or favor. But this human seemed different. Still, she said nothing. Or that evening, Avia visited the human embassy ship parked near Sevalon's rings. She said it was a formal inspection, but the truth was more complicated. She wanted to understand this strange man, Elias Drake. She walked through the clean, simple corridors. No floating lights, no glowing walls, just metal, screens, and a faint smell of oil and spice. In Elias's quarters, she found books, real paper books, which were rare now. There were carved stones with patterns, a wooden box filled with letters and photos of Earth, forests, oceans, and small homes with fireplaces. She ran her hand over one photo of a snow-covered cabin. "It's peaceful," she whispered. "Just..." Then Elias walked in. "Didn't expect you here," he said softly. She turned around quickly. "I came to inspect the conditions. This is not a personal visit." He smiled kindly. "Of course." She started to leave but paused at the door. "Why do you keep those books?" she asked. "They remind me where I came from," he said. "Before war, before politics. Just a boy who liked stories." Alvia didn't answer. She simply nodded and walked away, her heart more confused than before. That night she stood on her balcony again looking at the stars. Elias had not touched her. He had not forced closeness. He had been quiet, gentle, and patient, not what she expected from a human. For the first time, the cold wall around her thoughts began to melt, just a little, and deep inside she wondered, was she wrong about him? Alvia sat in her chamber watching a small flame dance inside a crystal lamp. The soft light reflected off the silver walls like tiny stars. Her thoughts were not on politics or duty tonight. They were on him, Elias Drake, the human. It had been 3 days since their wedding. 3 days of silence, short conversations, and quiet distance. And yet, Elias had not tried to force any closeness. He stayed respectful, gentle, even patient. Alvia was not used to this. In Thalreen culture, strength was always shown through command and pride. But Elias did not act like that. He asked questions. He listened. And when he spoke, it was never with arrogance. That confused her more than anything else. The next morning, Alvia decided to take a walk through the human sector of Sevalon. She wore a simple cloak without her crown. No guards. She did not tell Elias. She just needed to understand more. The human area was full of life. Music played from open doors. Children laughed and ran down the smooth stone paths. Small shops sold warm food and handmade gifts. It was not wild. It was warm. She passed a group of human children drawing pictures on the ground with glowing sticks. One of them, a little girl, looked up and smiled. "Are you the princess?" Alvia hesitated, then nodded. "Your dress is pretty," the girl said shyly. "Thank you," Alvia said, surprised. "What are you drawing?" "A ship flying through a rainbow," the girl beamed. Alvia blinked. "That is not how ships fly," the girl giggled. "It is if you use your imagination." Alvia watched the colors move across the stone and smiled without realizing it. Later that day, Alvia returned to the palace. Elias was already in the library reading a book about alien poetry. He looked up when she entered. "You went out?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," she replied. "I walked through the human sector." He nodded. "And what did you think?" She paused. "It was different, loud, colorful, but not bad." "That's something," he said with a small smile. Alvia looked at the book in his hands. "You read Thalreen poetry?" "I'm trying to understand your culture. Your people love art, and this poetry is beautiful." She sat across from him, curious now. "Do you understand the meaning?" Elias flipped to a marked page. "Not fully. This one is about a river that sings, I think." Alvia corrected him gently. "It's not a river. It's a memory that flows through time." Elias blinked. "Oh, that's much deeper." She nodded. "Your translation is too direct. Our language uses feeling, not just words." Elias listened, carefully. "Then maybe you can teach me." Alvia looked at him for a long moment. His tone was sincere, not demanding. "Just open for the first time," she agreed. "Yes, I will teach you." That evening, Alvia found herself walking into Elias's quarters. This time she was not inspecting. She was curious. He had added a small green plant in the corner and placed a painting from a human child on the wall. The room was still simple, but it felt lived in. Elias saw her and stood up. "Is something wrong?" "No," she said. I wanted to see more of your world. Your real world, not the palace. Nodded and showed her a small box. Inside were photos and items from Earth, his sister's drawing, a rock from his garden and a carved wooden figure. What is that? She asked. It's a bird, Elias said. We call it a sparrow. My father carved it for me. It's not perfect, Avia said. No, Elias replied, but it was made with care. She held it in her hand for a moment, then carefully put it back. You carry many memories with you. Yes, Elias said. Do Thalreen not? We are taught to carry only what is needed. That sounds heavy. Avia blinked. Heavy? To carry only duty and never joy, she didn't answer. She had never thought of it that way before. That night, Avia sat in her chamber, looking at her own things. A sharp ceremonial dagger, a crown, a long scroll of names, royal, ancestors, no photos, no gifts, no memories carved in wood. For the first time, her room felt cold, even though it was warm. She thought of the little girl's drawing, the human laughter, Elias's quiet voice saying, to carry only duty and never joy. Then, she did something unexpected. She took a small sheet of paper and began to draw. Slow, simple lines. A tree, a mountain, a river that sang like memory. The next morning she gave the drawing to Elias. He looked at it, surprised. Is this for me? Yes, she said quietly. You said humans use pictures to remember. Maybe Thalreen should too. He held it gently. It's beautiful. Avia looked at him. She still didn't fully trust him. Still didn't fully understand him. But something had changed. The wall between them had cracked. Not because of a speech, not because of power, but because of kindness. And small things. Sevalon's skies darkened as stormlights flashed above the dome. Though the moon city was protected by strong shields, a rare solar wave was moving through the system, causing strange power flickers and gravity shifts. Inside, the palace, Princess Avia and Elias had just finished a long council meeting. They walked through a glass corridor connecting the main tower to the diplomatic wing. We will need to reschedule the energy summit, Avia said, checking her tablet. If the wave continues, it may damage navigation systems. Elias nodded. I'll notify Earth's ambassador. Better to delay than risk lives. For a moment their eyes met, brief but calm. There was no anger now, no coldness, just quiet understanding. Suddenly the ground shook. The corridor lights blinked out and a strong rumble echoed through the walls. Alarms rang, a sharp crack echoed above, and the floor beneath them tilted. Avia gasped as a piece of the ceiling broke apart. Elias reacted fast. He grabbed her arm and pulled her away just before a glass beam fell where she had been standing. More panels cracked, and a support beam crashed down, sealing the exit behind them. The dust settled. Emergency lights turned red, casting shadows. On the walls, they were trapped in a half-collapsed corridor. Communications were offline. Elias looked around. Are you hurt? He asked quickly. Avia sat against the wall, breathing hard. Her robe was torn at the shoulder and a small cut bled above her brow. I'm fine, she said, though her voice shook. He knelt beside her. Hold still. From his jacket, he took a small med kit and gently cleaned the wound. Avia flinched. You don't have to. I know, Elias said. I want to. His hand was warm and careful, not rough like she had imagined human hands would be. She looked at him quietly, letting him finish. Time passed slowly in the dim light. The emergency signal was still not working. Elias tried to lift part of the broken beam, but it was too heavy. We'll have to wait, he said, sitting down beside her. Rescue teams will come. Avia wrapped her arms around her knees. For the first time, she looked small. Not the proud princess or cold diplomat, but a young woman in a strange moment. I've never been in a collapse before, she admitted. We train for emergencies, but it's different when it's real. Elias leaned back against the wall. I've seen worse in war zones, but yeah, fear doesn't care about training. She turned her head slightly toward him. Are you afraid now? He thought for a moment. No, not yet. But I am worried. For you. That answer caught her off guard. Why me? She asked. You're not used to being helpless, he said. And I know how heavy that can feel. Avia looked down. You understand too much. Maybe, he said, but only because I've felt it too. A soft hum passed through the floor. The ship's gravity was stabilizing again. But the door behind the wreckage remained blocked. Avia's breathing grew faster. The walls suddenly felt tighter. I don't like small spaces, she whispered. Claustrophobic? Elias asked gently. She nodded, eyes fixed ahead. It's all right, he said quietly. I'm here. Her hands were shaking slightly, though she tried to hide it. Elias didn't speak more. Instead, he slowly reached out. Not quickly, not forcefully, and held out his hand. He didn't grab her. He simply waited. For a moment, Avia stared at the hand. So many thoughts filled her mind. She was a princess. He was a human. She had called. His kind dirty, rough, and wild. But here he was, offering only calm and comfort, not power or pride. With a soft breath, she reached out and placed her hand in his. It was the first time they touched by choice. His grip was firm but gentle. Warm. Steady. The panic inside her chest softened. She didn't pull away. They stayed like that in silence. Not husband and wife. Not symbols of an alliance. Just two people trapped together, holding on to something human. Something real. After a while, she spoke softly. When I was young, I thought humans were dangerous. Elias raised an eyebrow. We can be. I thought you were wild creatures who couldn't feel control or calm. I feared your closeness, your emotions. And now? Avia looked down at their joined hands. Now, I'm still learning. He smiled. That's enough. Hours later, the rescue team arrived. The beams were lifted. Lights returned. Medics ran in, but stopped when they saw Elias and Avia sitting quietly, hand in hand. She stood on her own and nodded at them. We are safe. No panic is needed. As they walked back to the medical wing, Elias started to release her hand, but she held on a moment longer, just long enough to let him know she didn't fear him anymore. The calm after the collapse was short-lived. Backhow. In the palace, whispers filled the halls. Some nobles were angry. They did not trust the human prince, Elias Drake. They believed the marriage was a mistake, a betrayal to the Thalreen Empire's honor. Among these nobles was Lord Varen, a powerful man with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. He met with a small group of like-minded counselors in a darkened room beneath the palace. This union weakens us, Lord Varen hissed. Avia has been fooled by a primitive. We must act before our empire falls. One of the counselors nodded. But how? The Empress supports the treaty and the people watch closely. Varen smiled coldly. Then we will create chaos. We will frame the humans. Make them look like traitors. Then, our people will demand justice. Meanwhile, Avia and Elias were unaware of the plot. Their days grew busier. The alliance needed strong leadership. Together they attended meetings, worked on trade agreements, and tried to bridge the gap between their worlds. Avia's fear of Elias softened into respect. Elias admired her strength and wisdom. Still, the distance between them remained, a wall built by years of distrust. One afternoon, as they walked through the palace gardens, Elias stopped suddenly. Avia, he said carefully, do you ever wonder if the war will start again? If we are not ready? She looked at him, eyes steady. I do. But peace is not only about armies and treaties, it is about trust. Trust is hard, Elias said, especially when some want us to fail. That night, Avia could not sleep. She thought about Lord Varen and his threats. Her people had been through so much. The thought of betrayal within her own palace was painful. Suddenly, a message arrived. Secret, coded, and urgent. It was from one of Ovia's trusted spies in the lower city. Danger grows. Humans are accused of sabotage. They plan to strike during the next diplomatic event. Ovia's heart raced. She showed the message to Elias. "We must warn the council," she said. Elias nodded. "But if they don't believe us?" "We have no choice," Ovia said. "We will protect what we have built. Together." The next day, the diplomatic event began. Representatives from many worlds gathered to celebrate the new alliance. The palace was alive with music, lights, and the scent of exotic flowers. Ovia and Elias stood side by side on the main stage. They smiled for the cameras, but their eyes scanned the crowd. Suddenly, alarms blared. Security forces rushed through the halls. A small explosion rocked a side wing of the palace. Panic erupted. Elias pushed forward, moving through the crowd toward the blast. Ovia followed, her mind racing. They found the source. A damaged energy panel, obviously sabotaged. But worse was the evidence left behind. Human-made tools and devices. Lord Varen's plan was working. The nobles quickly spread rumors that the humans had attacked the palace. The crowd whispered fear and anger. Some demanded the immediate arrest of Elias and his people. Ovia stood before the council and raised her voice. "Do not believe these lies," she said firmly. "This attack was planned by those who wish to break our peace. I trust Elias and the humans I know." Many councillors gasped. Others murmured. Elias stepped forward. "I will prove our innocence. Let me find the true traitors." Together, Ovia and Elias began an investigation. They worked quietly, speaking to palace workers, security teams, and spies. Late one night, they discovered a hidden room beneath the palace. Inside were weapons, false documents, and communication devices, linking to Lord Varen and his followers. Ovia's eyes narrowed. "They have betrayed us all." Elias nodded. "We must act fast." They gathered loyal guards and confronted Lord Varen during a secret meeting. "You have broken the trust of the Empire," Ovia said, her voice cold but calm. "You wanted to destroy peace for power," Varen sneered. "You are weak to trust, a human." "But strength is not in hate," Elias answered. "It is in standing together." With no other choice, the council arrested Varen and his conspirators. The news spread quickly. The threat to the alliance was stopped. The people of Thalreen saw the courage of their princess and the honesty of the human prince. For the first time, Ovia and Elias stood not as strangers or symbols, but as partners, stronger together. That night, in the quiet of the palace, Ovia found Elias on the balcony. "Thank you," she said softly, "for standing by me." He smiled. "We protect each other." She looked out at the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of danger, but maybe with trust they could change its future. The palace was quiet but filled with tension. The failed assassination plot had shaken the Thalreen Empire to its core. Lord Varen and his conspirators were locked away, but many nobles still whispered their doubts and fears. Princess Ovia stood in the royal council chamber, her crystal eyes shining bright with determination. Today was the day she would speak, openly to the entire council, defending the alliance and Elias. The room was packed. Lords and ladies sat on high seats, their faces cold and skeptical. The Empress watched silently from a side throne, her expression unreadable. Ovia cleared her throat. "This alliance is not a weakness. It is our strength." Some councillors scoffed. One called out, "Strength comes from purity, from tradition, not from mixing with dirty humans." Ovia's gaze locked on him. "Those words hurt our people and threaten peace. Elias Drake saved thousands of Thalreen lives during the war. He stood with us when many turned away." She stepped forward, her voice firm but calm. "We do not need to fear change. We need to face the future together, humans and Thalreen alike." Elias was seated quietly nearby. He felt the weight of thousands of eyes on the princess and on himself. He had learned much in these weeks, about honor, duty, and the burden of expectation. When Ovia finished, a murmur spread through the council chamber. Some nobles nodded. Others still looked doubtful. Then Elias stood up. "My friends," he began, his voice steady, "I am not Thalrian by birth, but I am honored to stand here as your ally, your partner." He looked across the room. "We fought a terrible war, and many of us lost much, but I believe that the strength of a people is not in their weapons or wealth. It is in their hearts." He paused, then added quietly, "I am proud to fight beside Princess Ovia, not because of who she is, but because of who she chooses to be." The council was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, one of the oldest nobles stood. "Princess Ovia, Elias Drake," he said, voice calm but strong. "I have seen many battles in my time. I have also seen walls built by fear and ignorance." He looked around the room. "This alliance, this marriage, is the start of something new. We must put aside old grudges and welcome the future." More nobles began to stand and nod. Ovia's heart lifted. She turned to Elias and whispered, "You did well." He smiled. "Only because you showed the way." Later, outside the council hall, Ovia and Elias walked side by side through the palace gardens. The stars twinkled above, and a soft breeze stirred the fragrant flowers. "Do you believe they will accept us now?" Ovia asked. "Some," Elias said. "Others will always fear change." She looked at him thoughtfully. "But together, we can be stronger than their fears." He reached out and took her hand. This time there was no hesitation. It was warm, sure, and full of promise. They stopped under a tall tree, its leaves glowing softly in the moonlight. Ovia smiled for the first time in weeks. "Maybe this is the start of something better," she said. Elias nodded. "The start of a new dawn." In the days that followed, the alliance began to grow stronger. Trade routes opened between Earth and Thalreen worlds. Cultural exchanges allowed both peoples to learn and appreciate each other's traditions. Ovia and Elias worked tirelessly to build trust. They visited schools, shared meals, and even laughed at human jokes, something Ovia never expected. Their bond deepened from duty to friendship and something more. But challenges remained. Some radicals still spread fear and lies. Others doubted if humans and Thalreen could ever truly be equals. Yet every day, Ovia and Elias proved them wrong, through actions, respect, and patience. One evening, during a celebration of peace, the palace was filled with music and light. Aliens from many worlds danced together, sharing stories and food. Ovia stood beside Elias, watching the crowd. A young Thalreen child approached her, holding a small wooden bird. "For you," the child said shyly. Ovia accepted the gift, remembering Elias's carved sparrow. She turned to Elias and whispered, "We are building a new future." He smiled and squeezed her hand gently. "Yes," he said, "together." As the night deepened, the stars above Sevalon shone brighter than ever. Two hands, one human, one Thalreen, held tightly, a symbol of hope, unity, and a promise that, together, they could face anything the galaxy would bring. Months had passed since the failed assassination and the hard battles in the Royal Council. Now the galaxy was watching a new kind of power rise, one not based on weapons or old pride, but on trust and unity. Princess Ovia and Commander Elias Drake stood side by side on the grand balcony of Sevalon's palace. Below them, thousands had gathered to witness the signing of the Earth-Thalreen alliance, a treaty that promised peace and friendship for generations. Ovia looked at the crowd. Faces of many species shone back, filled with hope. She felt a warmth she had never known, not just pride in her duty, but joy in what they had built together. Elias's hand found hers. His grip was steady and sure. "We've come far," he said softly. She smiled. "Farther than I ever thought possible." The ceremony began. The leaders of Earth and the Thalreen Empire signed the treaty with glowing pens, symbols of a new beginning. There was music, laughter, and the light of 1,000 stars. After the crowd cheered, Ovia and Elias turned away from the stage. They walked through the palace gardens, now alive with colorful flowers from both Earth and Thalreen worlds. Elias looked around. Do you think people will really accept this? Ovia nodded slowly. Some already have. Others will take time. But every step forward matters, he squeezed her hand. You've changed more than the Empire, Ovia. You've changed me. She stopped and faced him. And you've changed me. From fear to hope. They sat by a peaceful lake inside the palace grounds. The water was still, reflecting the stars. Ovia took a deep breath. I used to think humans were rough, dirty, and uncontrolled. But you showed me something different. Elias smiled gently. I once thought aliens were cold and distant. But you showed me warmth and strength. They laughed softly together. I'm glad you took my hand that night in the collapse, Ovia said. Me too, Elias replied. It was the first time I really felt we could be equals. News from Earth arrived by holo message. Children in schools were learning Thalreen history and language. Artists painted pictures of the Alliance. Scientists from both worlds were sharing discoveries. Ovia watched the message and felt hope bloom in her heart. Humanity has not just survived the stars, she said. It has changed them. Elias nodded. And we will keep changing them for the better. One day, as they walked through the palace halls, a young diplomat approached them nervously. Princess Ovia, Commander Elias, he said, bowing deeply. I have come from the distant planet Orlan. They wish to join the Alliance. Ovia smiled warmly. Welcome. We will stand together. Elias looked at the diplomat and said, This is only the beginning. The years ahead would not be easy. Old fears and new dangers would rise. But Ovia and Elias knew they could face whatever came. Together. Their marriage was no longer a symbol of duty alone. It was a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of kindness. As the twin moons of Sevalon rose once more, Ovia and Elias stood watching the stars. She rested her head on his shoulder. We are not perfect, she whispered. No, he said softly, but we are better because we try. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but with hands joined, hearts open, and trust growing, a new dawn had truly begun.